Thank you, Matthias, and thanks a lot for invitation to this meeting. And really nice to see many of friends and colleagues with whom worked together many years. Sorry for organizers, but I changed title of my presentation because originally I was asked to cover urban boundary layer issues, which is my field mostly, modeling. But when I look through the program, especially 100 years of turbulence, I decided it is much more important to present legacy of Sergej Zilitinkevich work, who really provided great contribution to turbulence boundary layer research. Also, I included my good friend and colleague Bob Bernstein from US, and because we just recently wrote an overview paper with him on this topic, and we'll go into details later. Not just us. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, one and a half years ago, Sergej passed away, and now we can say only about his legacy. Even some papers are still publishing with his authorship and co-authorship, because until last days, actually, he was very active and containing new ideas and plans for the future. And of course, it is very sad what we lose so great scientist. And just would like to start from some information about his career and awards what he got during his life. And Sergej is really international scientist, working in many countries and providing connection and bridging of science between countries and scientific schools. Working in US, USSR, and Denmark, Germany, Sweden, Finland, and many other visiting professorship or something like that in many countries. And also had two honorary medals of European Geophysical Union, and also honorary professor in many universities, and also the most important, especially for me as representative of the World Meteorological Organization, he got IMO Prize, International Meteorological Organization, because that time it was not World, but International Meteorological Organization, but this prize was established. In my view, I think it's the main prize, a kind of Nobel Prize for meteorologists, and he got it 2019. And unfortunately, the procedure is what usually every year laureate of this prize give next year a lecture and get this medal and prize, etc. This official ceremony. And COVID stopped it, and it was decided to postpone. And Executive Council of the WMO in June of 2021 should give this official ceremony for him, but unfortunately several months before he passed away. And his daughter and his widow got the prize from hands of the Secretary General of WMO. Well, in my view, Sergej really provides a great contribution to boundary layer turbulence, and especially kind of providing revolution in boundary layer research. First of all, especially use some pictures from his slides, what he presents. And it is very important what he put efforts for understanding of interaction between different elements of the climate machine, atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, biosphere, etc., through the boundary layer. So boundary layer playing really key role in interaction in the Earth system and climate machine. And it is not surprising what Nobel Prize for Physics in 2021 was awarded for Manabe and Hesselman for modeling of Earth's climate, quantified variability and reliability, predicting global warming. And in my view, I think great role of Sergej's studies, especially for stratified boundary layer in this scientific revolution, is also very important, especially for a new vision, what he suggested in his latest papers, what is called his inverse methods and cascade and or what is called order out of chaos. And I'll say a bit later about it. And of course, we can talk about many different achievements what Sergej provided for planetary boundary layer theory, and among of many outstanding research, we can maybe particular mention, first of all, this Zilitinkevich formula for depth of stratified boundary layer, often now call it as just by his name. It's what really it's classical, and also correction to rate equation for depth of convective mixing layer and resistance for heat mass transfer for geophysical turbulence flows. It's not only for atmospheric, actually, his work also extended to ocean boundary layer and also for astrophysics. And the Zilitinkevich scale is also for rotating stratified turbulence mixing is well known and still used very actively. And I think what is also very important from last decades, what he suggested, new concept models for new type of atmospheric boundary layer, especially for what's called conventionally neutral boundary layer, settled on the ground of strongly stratified, typical for free atmosphere. And of course, in this case, it's much thinner, going to truly neutral boundary layer in comparison with classical neutral boundary layers. And also a new type of long-lived stable boundary layer, when stable boundary layer is also coupled by free flow stability, which is common for Arctic areas or winter time boundary layer in northern latitudes or south latitudes for the polar, south polar. And of course, also big turbulence regime, what Sergej considered, which is typical also for free flow and determine turbulence transport of energy and momentum, and also for diffusion, which is important for development of atmospheric models. And also quite interesting studies and pioneering were done by Sergej quite many years ago for non-local turbulence transport, also again for dispersion issues, coherent structure of convective flows. Sometimes such studies were forgotten, but now it's returning in many cases for such research and getting new and new applications. And also, this book we analyze how this theory, what Sergej suggests, is implemented into a modeling community for a different type of models for weather, climate, environmental models. And in many cases, for example, one example of the WoAT modeling community, some example what I can say about problems which was solved thanks to his new theory and new parameterizations, especially for time for a stable boundary layer. In WoAT, it's become too stable and very quickly because turbulence kinetic energy is dying and models do not work well for the rest of the night. When this includes his mechanism, this wave-like turbulence, it became much closer to the reality and improving these models in comparison with the traditional approach when actually this critical Richardson numbers turbulence is disappearing. Another problem also for daytime important for, especially for convective boundary layers and increasing quality of MWP models, and also several papers analyze for convective mass transport this parameterization in new WoAT models is improving, substantially improving forecast of electrical velocity, especially, and turbulent kinetic energy. Other problem is for boundary layer height definition, and most of numerical models still use quite simple approaches like mean temperature and wind gradients, and also percent of turbulence kinetic energy surface layer as criteria for boundary layer height. And of course, they are working not well, and again, providing his approach with advanced theory, it is possible to improve, including the free flow stability impact not only from surface forced turbulence, but also impact of free flow stability. Well, but the main interest of Sergej during last decades was deeply concerned with general questions of physical nature of geophysical and astrophysical turbulence. And from this point of view, it's really he suggests a kind of change of the paradigm of theory of planetary boundary layer turbulence. And as Thomas nicely presents the history, of course, the classical view, pioneered by Kolmogorov, for example, it's a cascade process from large edge towards small edges and to heat. But what Sergej considered also inverse cascade is chaos of out of order paradigm, additionally to this paradigm, and a new one, order out of chaos, when turbulence providing from small scale motions organize themselves and rise to quasi-organized coherent structure and larger scale edges and solved structure by models. And I think in this paradigm shift, his contribution is really remarkable, and especially for the region of transport properties, coherent motions, and also effects of buoyancy on turbulence transport, and especially for strongly stable stratification cases. So this really providing new possibilities for improving climate models, weather models, and especially for high impact weather forecasting, and also for atmospheric pollution. And also, when we analyze incorporation of Sergej's results for model improvements, he just listed some main elements which are used in most of modern models. But what it, probably not have time to go into details of this, but just what I would like to stress. Surprisingly, not many modern theory what Sergej suggested are already implemented. So this is one of the message what I would like to send to the community. What Zilitinkevich legacy is really need to be continued and test and implement further. Maybe I suppose Igor will say more about this. He's also working with these issues. And also the analysis WoAT in this paper more about the application of Sergej's studies in different numerical atmospheric models. And of course, if I was invited for urban issues, I would like also to keep some time for these issues, if I have time, of course. First of all, I would like to stress that Sergej also contributed quite a lot for urban environmental research. Even he was not especially focusing on that, but in several projects where we worked together, I convinced him to look on this issue, and it was very, very successful, and in particular, determination of stable boundary layer 5 for urban conditions. Actually, this Zilitinkevich approach, especially with combination with prognostic equation and diffusion term to for very inhomogeneous boundary layers provide the best results. And of course, roughness ratio for momentum heat and traces, what he suggests 1970 is very important for urban application and for environmental applications. And of course, the new theory that he suggests for stability dependence of the roughness length and also displacement height. And it is really important also for urban or for forest canopy models. And implementation of such studies we realized in several projects together with Sergej, after him. And also it's nice. Last years when I moved to WMO, of course, was more involved in both research programs for of WMO, and we moved with Sergej to a new vision of toward what he suggests personal environment forecasting and providing theoretical approaches. And this concept, what he suggests, is now actively realizing a new concept of WMO for integrated urban system and services. And well, I will not go into details because time is going very fast. Just keep some slides about urban issues, what I'm working for many years, and one of the issues we try to do, and we start also with Sergej, some strategy for urbanization of different models. Of course, it is very important to consider surface layer and interaction with urban surface and fabrics, because many issues are new there, and monolithic theory is not working there. So we have to parameterize them. And of course, there are a lot of parameterizations, and the problem is that if we increase complexity of parameterizations within urban canopy or urban sublayer, we also increase number of parameters that we need to provide, and also increase the computation cost. So we always need to find some balance for and fit for purpose approach and not always, for example, stately solved microscale models are the best options for this. So this one of the way what we suggested, analyzing different approaches, kind of hierarchy of urban approaches and parameterization for depend on scale and also depend on purposes for modeling in different areas. And also with Sergej, we start urbanization of environmental model once my team developed in Denmark and now in Helsinki. And there also his parameterizations and new approaches are now realized as one of the options for urbanization. And also obstacle solved models, also what one of my PhD students developed and help to analyze impact of buildings and provide simpler parameterization, because large area simulation or Reynolds average obstacle solved models not always suitable in cost. So and what is also the most important, well, practically not height of building is providing the main impact, but variation of height of building. This is extremely important to consider. Well, and just fun example of our model when we urbanize it and give a strong effect for Copenhagen. And other issue what's very important to consider is direction of turbulence characteristic of boundary layers with other processes, and especially for chemical composition and aerosols. And of course, many processes are included in integrated models like environmental or WoAT, but the problem is what not usually boundary layer height and turbulence characteristics influencing dispersion and chemistry is well described in models, but other mechanisms, for example, formation of secondary aerosols depend very much on turbulence of characteristics of the boundary layer or surface layer. And this mechanism is actually in opposite direction. And none of models are considered that. And we really need to put, and last year's is Marco Pulmo and start working there. And just some example of how important boundary layer in such models. I will not go. And here just impact on boundary layer height, including only direct effects. Of course, indirect effects just decreasing the boundary layer height. But when we consider also indirect and cloud interaction, the picture became much more comprehensive. And probably for there would be interesting to see what for WoAT and for cloud interaction boundary layers, that is extremely important. And also just some example of what let's skip for impact of dust sources on boundary layer structure and increasing low-level jets, and dust, which is the source of interaction with PBL, also increasing 10-meter winds, and because it's a very strong third-power dependency of intensity of dusting from surface. It's increasing the dust, so dust affect boundary layer, and boundary layer impact on increasing the dusting. So this also a way where we really need to include fully online coupled aerosol and meteorology models for boundary layer. And when we include also indirect effects, interaction with clouds boundary layer, it is clear our understanding is not enough. Here, 5 best models which are providing forecast, provide not only very dispersed results, but also impact in different directions. So this means that we really need to work in this sense. Our WMO degree result study is now continuing, so it's who are willing to join, welcome. And of course, also for coastal urban climate and ecology, it's important to consider specific cases of boundary layer. And also, finally, what I would like to say, it's for WMO strategy. What now you, of course, have to focus on requirements from the society and build climate smart and sustainable city. And the main goal now is to build science-based integrated urban hydrometeorology, climate and environmental system and services, where, of course, these urban boundary layer processes play extremely important role. So, and several guidance documents are now prepared by the WMO for these integrated urban services, and also guidance for measurement, modeling, monitoring the canopy, urban heat island, and also greenhouse gas emissions for urban areas, and good practice for high resolution modeling for integrated urban services, which are just waiting for publication. Thanks, and just returning to Sergej some pictures, and you know, he liked it not only science, where he was very successful, but also like life, and you can see many pictures also. There's a lot of friends around the world, and he was very happy at that time. And returning to the question of the organizers, what topics and achievements during the past 100 years, I included the following. First of all, I think Franklin von Karman, more close and roughness convection, extremely important as first step. And also Rosby Montgomery provided PBL model for neutral boundary layer. And Kolmogorov, Thomas already mentioned, cascade of spectra, and also TK budget closure. So this was Sergej called main approach, classical approach, chaos out of order. And of course, Baklanov theory, and I think Zilitinkevich new paradigm for PBL turbulence, keeping order out of chaos way. His important achievements during these 100 years. But as remaining challenges, first of all, I think implementation and test of such a new paradigm, as I mentioned, in theory to modern models, is still waiting for new scientists, and I think it would be really a good way to put efforts in that. Another fundamental problem for data simulation or data treatment of urban boundary layer observation in different types of atmospheric models is definitely easier, but most of the numerical models simply missing to simulate such data because it's not suitable with current models. LIS and DNAs are still expensive for practical works and due to computer resources limitation. And also TBL in climate and WP and air quality models, especially in seamless integrated Earth system models and coupled chemistry meteorology models, need to be improved and put more efforts for understanding of TBL mechanism in climate machine and also in atmospheric Earth system models. And of course, observation system is also not meeting research and practical requirements, unfortunately, yes, nowadays. And NASA just recently reported very nice study paper with a new PBL focused observing system, which will be used for. So thank you for the attention.